Okay, I think we can start. So, Carl, this is our regular gang, Daniel
Yeah.
and Nicole. I think we should start with you. You can introduce yourself as well, so at least we will
Okay.
know about yourself because I think this is the first time we are communicating each other, right? So, please
Okay.
introduce yourself.
So my name is well now managed to change my name here, so it seems to be correct. My alias here. My name is Carl Widiksson, and I'm stationed in Sweden. I am working. Well, my role is in IT. I belong to CI office at one of the Swedish biggest industrial manufacturing companies, and from I'm one of these, the handy craftsman working with IT and IT-related questions from all kind of dimensions, from sales to marketing to manufacturing to product management, offer management, and all the time it's information management that I'm related to. So I learned to know Daniel a couple of years ago, and I stay a little here. As I'm the first time in here, I'm trying to be I will be polite and perhaps staying a little bit in the background to see what will happen. Perhaps I will pop up and ask questions and emerge when my how to say when I'm brave enough and when suddenly my heart starts beating if it's something that really concerns me. So
Guys, let's start this thing. Our today's topic is about data product ownership, actually. This is what we came up with. And I wanted what is data product ownership from data angle? If you can chip in few things, Carl.
if I say data product, anything that I wouldn't define it like this, because if I was cited for not for providing a definition of it, that will be. But let's say for us, very, very hands-on from operations side, data products here, tangible for most people here is kind of, yeah, they have Power BI report, for example. Someone is providing them. Yeah. You have Power Apps, you have in a Microsoft environment. That is the closest you get into, people working with something. But what in behind them, it's something they provided. Perhaps they have an entry point where they enter something and something that they view, but beyond that one, who's owning something in the background, kind of a data model, that is something that suddenly things starts evolving. Who is owning that one? Who's maintaining that one? Who is certifying that the things that you're looking at are evolving and the quality of data is emerging. So if we start there very hands-on, that's the things that I would say the normal people in the organization would see as data products. Then we can evolve from that one and start saying, yeah, more or less how complex and advanced are they? Is that a starting point? The ownership of them is a question then, of course, who in our world, who owns them? And many times it falls back that there is a formal ownership, yes, but it falls back to a data office or a reporting office creating them. And they also then front the question on what is the owner of the single source of truth. Are they also responsible for that one or not?
Yeah.
And so suddenly you start pulling the strings and you get an understanding of the level of understanding from the operational point of view and the concerns. If there are faults or wrong things, who should I talk to? Well, the
Yeah,
data office, of course.
I have a question on that one, that who is the right product owner? So that's my second question. So first you define like what is data product ownership, which you have clearly mentioned from your perspective. Daniel, next to you. So we are not going into right now like who owns. First, we need to understand what is data product ownership. Yeah, from your point of view, because you are into major data, right?
Yeah, from my perspective, I would say that a data product is a construct to make something tangible out of data, because data has been flowing. It's been like a river, and the data product is trying to sort of freeze it into ice blocks that you can move around and you know what to do with. For me, that is sort of how I'm seeing the creation of the data product. If it was managed good from the start, you wouldn't need a data product. But since people seem to think that data is something intangible, then we need to construct something around it. So that's my perspective on the creation and what the data product is.
So you are talking about data product, not data product ownership, is it?
Yeah.
Okay, data product. Okay. Okay. We have Marek here, but Marek, you have to hold on for a few seconds, before a few minutes before we take feedback from Nicole, and then we'll come to you. Nicole, from your end, what do you, because you are selling one of the very key products or a niche product, which I have just come to know a few months back when you told me actually, which is strategy ops. And the more I go into it, the more I feel any organization cannot live without this data strategy or strategy ops or this kind of product. Whenever I'm talking to everyone, people are asking visibility. So people think observability is visibility, but observability, visibility is a technical level. But strategy ops is the visibility for the higher C level, MD's level, high level of management. So yeah, you are meeting a lot of people from that angle, and you are bringing visibility of data products to the higher level. So from your point of view, what is data product and its ownership?
Yeah, thanks. And I think yeah, the way I look is kind of complementary to what you said, Daniel, and maybe Carl, because for me it's not only start from a technical need, to get something tangible around immaterial data. It's also the recognition that data, or it can be I mean, and I'm not strict on data product like just being data as a product. It can be a thing like you said, Carl. It can be an analytics dashboard. It can be an AI product, and so it can have different flavors and so on. So I don't have a very rigid way about it. But I think what is really important is that, and that has been forgotten a lot of time, is that it's not a one-time thing. It has a life cycle. So it's a product in the sense that you need to have that because it needs to be for an audience. For some people, it has a value proposition and something, and it has a life cycle. So meaning, it's not like you just built a data warehouse or an MDM stuff and then you can leave it aside. You need ownership because you need to care about the life cycle. So this is why notion of ownership comes, is because we need to have products that appear, because products are something that will deliver value for the organization to some people. And so the reason why I think we come to data products is first because we need to apply data product management principle to data and AI things, and that product management principle starts with a clear value proposition, who are our persona and target users, and how do we manage the life cycle around that. And so this is where the question of ownership comes, because then, and I think Gary mentioned maybe something around that, is that then we need to know who's in charge when there is a problem, who's in charge about the P&L, who's in charge about prioritizing new demands and evolution, who's in charge about caring about data quality and improving that, or making the case to get budget to improve, etc., etc. So I think this is where it comes from. So and of course you need technical constructs behind that to support it, but the main thing for me comes from, again, that top-down stuff. And this is a foundation then, of people doing data mesh or data domain modeling. You can define those buckets in where you can then identify that, and then we come to org structure. But then, okay, so that's how we define that.
Okay, so in nutshell, what you're saying is data product is something which has a life cycle. It's not only to go live, but whether it's going to be used properly based on the starting point. When we start an idea and you say this is the value generation will happen. So you have to go up to that cycle, idea to adoptability. That's what you're saying, correct? That's the
exactly. So I use a lot today some numbers. I think the latest Gartner research says basically today 75% of data products that people build in organization are never used. Can you really call that a product? No, it's just garbage. You build stuff and you do like washing on top. So that's awful. And I think in many organizations that product mindset is not there, in the fact that you account for a budget to build something. You don't account for how you're going to run that, how you're going to operate that, how you're going to maintain that, and so on. And this is where the huge shift is because you need to think from the beginning how you're going to operate.
Okay.
And that's why I talk about startups, because startups is you want something at the beginning, but then you need an operating model. If you don't combine, you just pile up. There was a story a few months ago. I don't know who I was chatting with. There was a company in the US who was very proud because they have something like 1,300 AI model in production. Okay, so they're very proud about that, and everyone is actually very scared about that because they, guys, who's running that? Because now you have all of that in production, so that's either a huge advantage or a huge liability in front of you. Because if you didn't account on how you're going to monitor the drift, track risk, etc., you don't. Yeah, it can be moving very quickly from a huge achievement to a huge mess.
I think you're making a very interesting point, Nicholas, because if we think about this as a product, as we should, and we say, you know what, we're this company and we have now launched 1,300 new products. And then the question is, so who's buying it? We don't know who's buying it. And who's producing it? We don't know who's producing it. And how do we go to market? How can I put my sales and marketing team to work for these 1,300 different products? We don't know.
Yeah.
That product will crash and burn quite quickly. Because it's not a product, it's concepts, it's ideas, it's something else, but it's not a product in the traditional sense. And that's what I was kind of alluding towards, that even with data product, there is still a notion in a lot of organization that it's still intangible. It's not something that you actually treat as a product with everything that's around it. So I think it's a maturity issue there.
Yeah, and it's a big one, because as you say, even sometimes that notion of selling, I didn't mention selling too much because internally it's not necessarily about selling that from a traditional, because you can have products into another product, but it's at least you need to talk about adoption. That's the minimum selling is about making sure that who is adopting that and so on. And if you don't have that, you don't have products. You're just buying tech stuff like we did.
Isn't that more like data offers, kind of ideas, like Daniel saying? It's a lot of, everyone can throw around offers and ideas, but then you need to get it kind of uniquely specified, and it suddenly becomes a product. Then suddenly you need kind of something unique identified to say that this one takes ownership of tracing, tracking all the way back. So it's taking it from ideation into, or POC world into real world. That is kind of data offers versus data products. I don't know if there's a stringent right. Well,
yeah, for me it's a continuum. So I agree. We can name that, and again, that's why it's interesting within each organization to do some marketing in how you capture that, because you need that. You need to have the incoming demand, saying how do we identify needs, and then and then you have, of course, what you offer, and but then we go to more question about how do we assess value or the kind of ROI of the different products you built and whether they make sense.
Yeah, we will come there. Yeah, I have a question.
It's a deeper question.
Yeah.
Very good. Yeah, I would like to throw into the mix here today. I would like to think about if we can have the chance to talk about data product portfolio optimization. How many data products are good to have? Is it 1,300? Is it 10? What's too much? What's too little?
I was about to ask this question. Let me bring that question, which I was. So, Marek, you're still parked. I'm coming to you. So, with this, whatever context you have said, Nicole, right? There's a question just for our audience, right? So, are we saying that a data product is something after it goes live, it's not sitting on a shelf, it's not usable, it's not something which is not being used, it's something which is generating value in a regular basis and which is growing? Is that a data product? And of course, then ownership comes. Because as you mentioned, right, when we are developing something, we can't declare it as a product. It's a project, as you guys mentioned, idea. But once it goes live and it starts generating value, then it becomes data product. Are we saying that?
Well, it brings value to someone. You have to, at least if there's someone who is willing to pay for it, to nurse, then suddenly you have a product. I mean, there is no product unless there is someone who's actually paying attention to it or bringing value to it. So it becomes, not an open end, but it's kind of, without a consumer, there's no product really. Well,
see, that's the challenge. Na? See, that is the challenge. As Nicole just mentioned in Gartner, 75% projects nobody uses. They are in the production. Someone is paying for those. Of course, OPEX is going out, but those are not generating value. So it means we can't treat that.
I think the way I understand paying in what Carl was mentioning is more paying for consumption, not paying for operation, which is sometimes confusing.
Yeah,
I don't know
if
yeah.
Okay.
Which is
okay. Now we turn towards Marek. Hi, Marek. So Marek is also part of our gang. He was
Hello.
Hello, Marek.
So Marek, our question
Hello, pleasure.
Question, Marek, let me repeat it for you. What is data product ownership? Because Marek look at the front end, Tableau, BI side, and he's also very much into directly with the end users. So I think Marek will be able to add some value into this question, that what is data product and ownership?
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm sorry again for joining late. I was just trailing from the meeting where we were talking about probably the data products for future for the company. And I asked them a few questions. So to your question, what is the data ownership of the data products? That comes to my mind because I am always at the business part of the process at the beginning. And what I suppose the people are asking usually before beginning of our project, they are asking about the data products. They don't even know that it's called like that. They don't even know the frameworks. They're just asking for the really detailed data products they want for their daily usage. And we're coming then to translate it into projects which at the end of the day needs to bring these data products. And there comes the really interesting part, because as it was said, these projects might in the middle end up with just the ideation, because there is a lost ownership. So the answer to your question is the ownership of the data products should lay on the business side, but it's never even aware that they are asking about the data products, so they cannot handle the ownership of that they are not aware of the things. So what they bring the requests for the really, really detailed and defined data products, but they are not able to being responsible and take the ownership on their side. I'm calling about CFO, CEO, CSO, the head of the sales. They have very clear idea, they have very clear definitions, they have very clear features of everything what their data product should have, but they will never take the ownership on their side because they say it's on the IT, it's on the development team. But the development team, on the other hand, is able to bring everything what the data product needs as a feature, but only during the phase of the ideation and the kind of a testing or production installation. But they don't own and will never own, that idea and features, because it never came from their mind. So this ownership is like a non-tangible thing for both sides from my perspective. This is what I saw.
No, which is
and
fine.
Usually,
I think you brought in usually the second question. That was our second question. Good, you have brought it in.
Yeah.
Okay, let me repeat. Let me put up that question. So next, Carl and Daniel and Nicole can also answer. This was our second question, that who should own the data product in an organization? IT, business users, or is hybrid? So you are talking on the same thing, right? This is very key. And you brought it up very clearly that directions, steers, and major decisions come from the C-level. But normally C-level say, hey, this product will be used or requirement come from that business. It's a procurement or it's a HR. So they don't in it. Please continue. Yeah, this is our question. Yeah. Okay, come to you now. This question that who should own the ownership of our data product? Either it should be business or IT, or it should be hybrid. What do you think?
It should be me. And with the funding, then I'm really happy. No, sorry, but in a I mean, it's like a wise man saying, like I spoke to. The I in IT is information that's owned by business. That's information, but the data products and the business, I would say, should own them because they are requesting them, demanding. So it should be business. But again, the reality bites. The reality tells us sometimes in a hybrid format, IT. The thing is that IT also has their own products that support them. So the answer is yes and no and hybrid, but predominantly it should be business driven. That's the question. Not saying that business should own it, but business driven. It brings value. That is my. Was the answer correct? I don't know. Let's hear from other ones.
Let me add something here, right? From my angle as well, before we jump on to Daniel, right? I see this very often. You're right. Requirement comes from business. Budget comes from business, but it is parked with the IT team. And IT team get that budget. Comes from business, but IT team take over and they start developing it. They always have to listen to the business, but then that confusion comes, right? Who should take the decision? Because there's a precaution, there's a after effects as well, right? Goes live, it's successful or not successful. So that is the balance we need to look into it. Yeah.
If I continue that one,
yeah, please.
We then open up the question regarding shadow IT, for example. I mean, the question, the ownership of things. If business doesn't own it and IT is not owning, doesn't quick enough or how do you say, following or are being, call it agile or flexible enough. I mean, what's wrong with shadow IT in that case? Because it brings value, but the long-term effects, someone will have to pay for those also. So that's the continuation of the question. Not what I'm saying that shadow IT is good or not. I would say that sometimes that's the best way to go, short term.
Oh, short term. Okay. Daniel?
Yeah, if I
yeah.
No, so I just wanted to, I will not steal the turn of Daniel, but you mentioned shadow IT. For me, the main problem with shadow IT is not the value it brings. It's all the downside that come with it in terms of risk and cost tracking. And so, and the main one being risk even more than cost, because the cost you could always argue that it's cheaper or whatever. But usually the only problem actually with shadow IT is a governance problem, is what are the risks you're taking there, because you walked around a whole process that was built to avoid risk, and for me that's where the main problem leads, is that you favor a huge focus on value, but forgetting every reason why there is a usual process to that. But anyway, so that's my. I'll come back to the main stuff afterwards.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Nicole. Daniel, question comes to you: who should own, business, IT, or hybrid?
So I had a reflection just now when you were talking that. In a lot of cases, when I look and hear people talk about data products, they focus on the technical part. The APIs, and you were mentioning it before, Nicholas, that, well, there's actually a governance, there's an ownership, and there's the life cycle of it. But when somebody says a data product is owned by IT, I think you talk about the technical part. But the technical is not all of it. It fits into your working processes. It's got people working with it, and you have technology. So when it comes to ownership, my perspective, and I just realized that it might be a sort of a cause for confusion, because I'm thinking about the information security, information integrity when I'm thinking about a data product. Technology for me is I don't really care about what technology is used to facilitate the transmit of data from source to consumer with the definitions and all of those. For me, it is the information integrity that I think about. And for me, then it's very, very clear who has a problem when the data is wrong. That person, that organization owns it. If it's IT, if it's purchasing, if it's HR, it can be anyone. But who has the big problem when the data is wrong? That is where I would put ownership.
Okay. So, Nicole, you want to add anything over here?
Yeah, good. Yes, but I don't know how to frame that. I think I agree, and unfortunately, sometimes with what you said, Daniel, I think it's really hard to find that ownership. But I think there are different things I had in mind when listening through that. The first one is that there was a great thread a few months ago about the fact that ownership is a bad name, because I think you put it in the chat, Daniel. Data is organization ownership. So then sometimes it leads to bad things. So then we can argue whether data owner is a good word or not, but I would put that aside, because it's ownership not in the sense of it's my data, but it's ownership in terms of I'm accountable for the quality of that data. So that's, I think that would be a strong, difference to say, but that I think that the spirit you had in mind, Carl and Daniel, when you talk about it, it's about who's accountable for that. And so that's one thing. Yeah.
So you mentioned, sorry for interrupting you. So it's more like what Daniel says, the RACI model, the responsible, accountable, consultant. That exactly. For me is better suited than perhaps the word ownership, because that's another kind of.
Exactly. So you need to have a good mapping about who is the RACI for each product in terms of who has to use, who's the target user and who is in the loop for that. So that we probably need a more subtle definition of the roles around each product than just who's the owner. But that's I think we're good on that. The second thing where and then I fully agree with you, Daniel, that it's not just a technical problem. The technical capability of the platform and depending on the nature of the product, you might need a team to deliver. But like for any digital product, the product owner is not a developer. And he might need a developer team aligned to him to deliver the capability, but the product manager, the product owner, are the people in charge of. They're accountable for what's the strategy, where it's going, et cetera, et cetera. And so we shouldn't differentiate too much. So, and of course, that being said, ownership has to be back to the business in a way or not. I mean, but then when it becomes tricky, and this is where I was not totally clear with what you said, Daniel, is because you say it's who has a problem with it. And then the question is it the consumer or is it the producer who should be owner? And this is where it gets really tricky, because in a way, I believe the owner should be the producer, because this is the only place where you can fix data quality from the beginning, and sometimes it means not only fixing technical stuff, but fixing processes and stuff like that. And once you've said that, you need to serve your consumers, which are your client in a way, but they're not product owners in a way, that your consumers. And of course, that leads to another question I put in the initial chat, which is then who pays? But that's because then there is always a huge change for me with budgeting within organization. And we can, maybe that's a next topic in terms of then HR needs production or whatever, sales need production data. But then why is production going to prioritize the need of sales or whatever side? And then that becomes more a budgeting issue. But that's, yeah, so
And sort of elaborating on that, I think for me, it's very interesting because let's call it production data. Production data can come from 5, 7, 10 different systems databases, which means there are many, so each part has a person who's accountable, but who's accountable for the full 360. And that's where that's my perspective on sort of, okay, who sleeps poorly at night if the data is wrong. If all the parts are right, but the combination of them is poor,
But that so that's an awesome point, because that's, for me, that's usually always the example I take when people are complaining about the data quality problem and trying to solve the data quality problem from bottom up. Because I'm like, guys, you're solving a bottom up problem, but if you don't know that kind of cross product quality issues, and you're solving nothing, because it can be data quality. I work with banks, and I used to come and say to the people, the data quality in your data platform, in your payment platform, is bad. And the guy says, no, it's not. It's how we run the bank. So we don't have data quality problem. So it was offensive, to say it like that. And it's true, because the actual problem was almost never within one system. It was always at the boundary of multiple systems. And then it's all a viewpoint problem, because, as you say, everyone was accountable for data or processes. And if you say your processes doesn't work, it's a very, maybe it happens sometime, but it's a very offensive statement. Whereas if you understand that it's more a transversal problem, it becomes a very different one. And but on the other hand, if you just put that, and that's where I'm not totally, I don't have the definitive answer, obviously, for that. If you put the challenge to the consumer, then you don't have any incentive for the producer to fix that, because they don't have the problem. And that's the main challenge with that, is that because if I'm the one consuming data across 3 different products and it's not coherent across that, then who is owning that? See, I'm the one having the pain, but I'm not the owner. I don't know what I can do with that, So that's where it becomes tricky.
It becomes really tricky. All input is saying I'm right, but when you put it at face value, say I have these 3 phone number fields, and there are 3 different phone numbers. Everyone says I can call my client from the data I have in my system, but we have 3 different phone numbers. Who's right? Who's wrong? Who owns the problem? Yeah, it's tricky, but it works when we talk about physical product. When we talk about the things we sell, we sort it out. We get the products out the door, and for me, once again, data has been treated as something different. It's been treated as technology. It's been treated as IT. And I think the notion around the data product is to bring that up and start actually getting some handles and some grasp on it to be able to solve it.
Okay, I think I got a little bit confused now. So now I'm wearing my SA hat. The discussion is going very good now. Okay, now when I'm an SA, right, a requirement comes to me. What I'm hearing is are we saying that there has to be a third party who should own it? Because if I see that product is created and consumed by someone, and someone can be a buyer in a DaaS environment, they will not own the product. They'll say, hey, we are just paying, just give us the data. That's it. Now the data can come from hundreds of source systems. So if we make source systems as owners, how many owners we're going to make? Cannot. So it means if am I going the right direction? There has to be a third party who should be taking the requirement to create a product from consumer, going to the producers and create a product, and still owns it, sits here, take the pain, end-to-end pain, because he's the owner. He is not paying the money, he is not spending the money, right? But he is the one who is the owner. Am I thinking in a direction?
What if we flip it upside down, Mustafa? What if we say like this? Anyone can create a data product, but you pay, everyone who uses it pays. That means the ones that are actually being used are funded. Those that are not being used are not getting any funding, just like a product. Then for me, that would mean that you get the budget to run and maintain quality. There's the incentive, because you're getting money every time somebody uses your product. If nobody uses your product, it will die, just like a product.
Yes, so it means there is a third party who is creating that product, because he's getting paid, because someone is giving budget. You are bringing source systems to get this product built, and you are getting paid. So is this third party we are saying is the owner?
I'm not sure I would look at it like that. I mean, I think something we didn't discuss, and I like your very how to say libertarian approach, Daniel, basically saying let capitalism do its work within the organization and see where it goes and so on. I think in many cases organizations are not so much democracies, so that's where we need there is some um, uh, chasing. I mean, of course, when you talk about data products, usually what is interesting is to structure that a bit and saying, again, building domains or building stuff so that there is kind of an architecture topic here or this is where enterprise architects can come and so on to try to organize that a bit and to say, let's not look at data product necessarily by source system, but more by domain and how we want to expose and build ownership around that so that we understand how we're going to serve with one set of information to the rest of it. And of course, this is where also you can start tackling those coherency issues or across different products. So it's not solving everything, but you have an architectural problem which exists in your product portfolio. So at some point, you need a portfolio approach to have that view and also rationalize. And maybe sometime you might accept to have competing products if you want to experiment stuff, but then you need to know about it because it means in the marketplace, you need to tell your clients why should you use one or the other, or hopefully make sure that information they will get from both is slightly coherent, because sometimes, if you want to have the sales data up to date in any company, you might have very different answers to that, and that leads to scary outcomes in a way. So I don't think you can avoid, again, so I think there is some level of transversality in terms of what is my portfolio, what is the high level architecture, what is the high level mapping of those domain and of those product boundaries, so that at the end we can have those right ownerships and help with discovery. But of course, at some point, then you need to lead with that competition. I think, Daniel, I never thought of it like that, in companies, because I think I don't see many companies where it would really work. But that's interesting. But I think the culture that you need to have in the people being their own salesman, it's a strong shift in a way. So why not? But it's a whole culture in a way. So
I'm putting it as a provocative notion. I know it's very far away from working, but it is for me. The trigger for me is, sorry, Carl. The trigger for me is the product. If we title something a product and it's not on a marketplace, what is it then? Does it have, as Carl was saying, does it have a consumer, somebody who's buying it or not? I mean, if we're going that direction, if we want to call it a product, let's call it a product. Let's go all the way.
I agree. That's why I say you need a portfolio, you need a marketplace, you need somewhere where you will manage that. Otherwise, it's a mess. Yeah. Sorry, Carl.
Again, I was really intrigued by Mustafa's question when I was thinking. So I'm coming from a company. We manufacture physical products. You make money out of physical products that we sell. That means that if you apply that thinking around it, we have offer product management. We have the dukes, the princess that owns the different product areas. Then we also have to support them. We have an R&D, and we have a manufacturing machine, so to say. So if you apply the same thinking here and say that could they handle that, or should there be I wouldn't say it's a shadow, but an additional level to manage those other products in the same structure? And that is one question. The other question is, of course, if you see these as if we flip over to the enterprise architect side and see it as capabilities and the value streams, because this is actually information and data products that go through an additional value streams or in combined existing value streams we're talking about. Then we get into the question about, okay, in a simplified world, someone is owning data management as a capability. Someone owns information management as a capability, but I would actually say that the maturity level in companies, if you look at them and say that, okay, you name someone who's responsible for the third layer, which is the knowledge management, and then start asking a question, okay, if we're going to build things, products, based upon the same kind of, how to say, this digital replica of yourself for reference, you need to have some governance structure around it in the background that you own and maintain. And then it falls back to the capitalistic question here. Okay, the ones that are going to survive around it, or who's going to pay for it. As I mean, some products that doesn't have a customer or an end consumer could survive as visional ideas, entrepreneurs that pushing for the ideas until the day that he actually can find a market for it. But that person can make that, how to say, bubble of a vision live. And that is another part of the capitalistic idea. You live by the dreams that you can put something on the market, someone you can find to consume it. So it's that's another, sorry for me taking over the scene here, but it's
Nah, it's great, right? See, that is where I'm trying to understand it. And I think the strategy ops, I think most of the places, Nicholas, you feel this challenge as well to find the right owner. But I want to go towards Marek, because Marek, as I mentioned, is the front end. So Marek, do you see the consumers, your Tableau users, right? Power BI, do they try to own the product most of the time? Because they are the one who are consuming, right? Do you see this from your end users?
It's typical Pareto over there. So from 10 people, only 2 have a tendency to own the products. Otherwise, they want to get rid of the responsibility, and they say they want to look at the data. They define the features, they define the process, but they don't want to own it. And that's very strange for us. We are trying to explain to them it's their responsibility to own it and to have the whole overview over the processes and management and stuff on that. But they don't want to do that. I think it's a nature of the process management in the companies. But we have positive, some only 2 of those 10. So there are some CFOs that are very proactive. When we explain to them, they need to own the process and they need to own the product. So they are very agile, and they usually go very deep. They even have the sessions with the developers, trying to explain the processes, trying to explain the features, and we are somewhere in the middle. At the end of the day, we are the owners then, because we are some kind of a fusion layer between them, because developers, they don't want to own it. The ITs, they don't want to own it. And the business, they don't want to own it. So we usually hear sort of a catalyst in between, and we own that because we understand both sides, but it's not sustainable. So we are hiring then the internal senior kind of an analyst, business and developer guy who's got all 3 skills, and then we hand on and give them away these responsibilities, and they take the responsibility for partial of these data products, but only for the critical ones, just 1, 2, but there are 10 of them, so it's really, really hard for them. So it's very vague then afterwards.
Now, can I add a question here for all participants, right? From a different angle. Let's say there is a product. I feel it's just popped up. It's the one way could be to find out the right owner is, if product is running good, you simply say, I'm going to shut it down. Let's see who will shout. Whoever thinks that this product goes away, then whoever comes forward, maybe is that.
Yeah, that's what Daniel said. But again, my only change with that is that if you are only in a place in the company where you provide data to many other services, you wouldn't have a problem with shutting it down. It would be everyone else. So that's why I'm not total fan of having it's only the users who are the owner, because I believe the user don't have any way to fix any of the source income. So the ownership or the accountability problem cannot be on the user. It has on the consumer side. It has to be on the producer side in a way. So I think what was interesting in what you said, Marek, is that, and for me it goes, there's a lot of question that goes into how do you align incentive within the company on why you should do that, and I know and it can be strong, because at the end there is something that has to come from the management or from the bonus structure or whatever, saying I don't care if you want or not. It's your responsibility to provide data to the other one. I mean, in a way. And then the question is, again, it might be either a OKR question or a KPI question or a bonus structure question. I don't know it, but it's a way that if you don't put this objective to the different business units saying, this is your role to provide data to the other one to make a better decision to optimize the end-to-end process, it won't happen. And I think many times when you face what you were saying, Marek, I believe that there is something missing at the top saying we need to do. It's an organizational challenge. We need to do that. And so, I don't know if you've seen already it's a very known Amazon memo that led to creating AWS. The Jeff Bezos memo with 10 points. Okay, so it's really interesting. It's something that says basically one day decided that every service within the company should provide APIs to others to run to offer the services. So it's data and so on. And it says so basically this is how I want to do it. It has to happen in the next 6 months. We will learn and we will fail in the process, whatever. I don't care. And you have the right to disagree, but please resign today. And that's, I mean, it's a style. I'm not saying that's how but the fact that it's strong is saying this is how we want to have, an organization as a service, basically. And it's a kind of same idea with data products, because if you say, I need my production to provide data for others because we need the sales to provide sales forecasting for production to improve, and you need all of that to go to the CFO for consolidation. For all of that, you need that. So you need to align the bonus structure in a way. I'll find a way to say, I don't care if you want or not, because this is how you're going to be paid on, or whatever, something like that.
I have an example of going live with a data product. It's 7 years ago. It was not called a data product back then. Essentially, it was a shared product structure across the entire enterprise in one API. The thing is, that was in one system, and we went live with that on public web. So essentially, all the product names on public web came from this one source. So that was the data product as such, as we usually define it. It's all product names in a hierarchy published. And there is ownership to that product being operational, functioning, adhering to specifications and so on. But back end, I had 65 individual data owners that managed their part of the product offering. So essentially, there are layers of accountability, as we were talking about recently. And within 24 hours of going live with that connection, with that data product on the web, is the biggest data quality increase I've ever seen. You went from 85% to 99.9999%, because it was obvious who had created this data. It was out on the web, so all customers in the world had their eyes on it. All the sales companies were looking at that data, and they knew exactly who the person who was accountable was, and they got emails for whatever purpose. Whatever was wrong, they got that email within an hour from going live. So that's, I mean, you can actually look at the data product that way as well. But that data actually packages governance.
Yeah, because see, once the product got hit, it's successful, then you will find hundreds of honors actually. When it is not successful, that is where the challenge comes. I think we are good. I have my next party already online. With them, I need to have another session. So I think it was a great session today. Nicholas, I think you have covered your question as well.
Yeah, mostly, but that was a great discussion. So I think we were hopefully it was good. I loved it. And hi, Val, Scott.
Hey, Val is there, Scott is there. So thank you so much, guys. Pleasure. It is as usual panel discussion, and we will plan to get another one in a quarter's time. Whenever you guys have time, I'll put into the chat. Thank you so much, Carl. Thank you so much, Nicholas. Daniel,
guys.
pleasure to have
Good
you
to
guys.
meet you.
Take
Most
care.
grateful. Have a great weekend. Thank
Yeah.
you very
Same.
much.
Take care, everyone.
Bye
Thank
bye.
you.